And it's funny because when I'm at a recovery center, the simplest, dumbest things I say touches people,
Mhm.
or they get touched by hearing something for themselves, which just made, and I guess looking back, that was one of the, I guess you could call it gifts. What I realized is that people don't need a heavy dose of spirituality and deep languages and all these ways to like talk about, not that you don't need to, or the true self and all that. You can do that and people can get touched. But you could also talk about waking up and kissing your wife and looking at, what to make your kid for breakfast. And a simple conversation can touch someone as well, right? So the touching part, something touching someone else's heart, the heart speaking to a heart kind of thing, is so instrumental in how I speak to my clients, how I show up when I do my programs or when I do webinars. Because in that respect, I don't ever run out of ideas because I'm not trying to be smart. I'm not trying to be the person that has something really deep to share. I just share what I see. And the seeing in of itself is very touching. The ability to say, wow, I'm in my head right now, not saying, what do I do about it? The mere fact of saying, wow, I'm really spinning right now, that does something for us, right? Because a lot of us try to get to, holy shit, I'm spinning, what next? We're at the what next part, but we haven't even touched, we haven't even felt the experience we're in this moment. We're so busy trying to get somewhere else that we don't get touched by the experience we're in. I got touched by being spinning. I got touched by being alone. I got touched by being afraid of being afraid. And that in of itself was liberating, right? Because even if you go on Facebook right now, what are the first thing people say? I'm not feeling good right now. How do I get out of it? I'm in a place where I don't want to be. Where do I go to the next place? We hear it all the time in marketing, to get to the next level. Next level is a constant thing, but when people aren't comfortable in this level, whatever that means, they're definitely not going to be where they're in the next level if they're not here, because you're always going to end up being here anyway. Anyway, no matter where you get to, you're always going to be right here. And so I'm in no rush to get people to the next level. I'm in no rush to get them to see what's, even in our, I don't know if I should say in our community, because I don't know who's listening. There's a gentleman by the name of Sid Banks who I absolutely adore. He says, you're only one thought away from a whole new experience, right? That's a quote that I've absolutely loved. But what's wrong with being in the experience right now, right? The idea that we're one thought away from a whole new experience assumes that the experience in right now is something to be afraid of. But if we can be okay in this experience, then you don't need to be one thought away from another experience. And so that was my insight that I received. And so that was something that was very useful for me when I go to a recovery center. When they say, I'm terrified right now in my experience. And I tell people, great, then you're going to be scared of this experience for a moment. And when they, what's the first thing they say is, well, Amir, what do you do when you're afraid of your experience? And I say, you guys, are you ready for this? When I'm afraid of my experience, I'm afraid of my experience. And then when I'm scared of my experience, I'm scared of my experience. And when I'm feeling depressed in my experience, I feel depressed in my experience until I don't. And there's something that happens to me, just like at a young age when I got to see it. Then I could start watching cartoons while I'm depressed. I can make dinner while I'm sad. I can kiss my wife while I'm insecure with my relationship with her. In other words, I don't have to stop living with whatever I'm in right now. I don't have to stop living. And I think that's the mistake people make, is they think they need to hold on living until their experience changes. They need to take a pause from living until that thought looks different. And what I'm here to say is you don't. And one of the biggest, I guess, moments I saw that is my ex-girlfriend. Her mother had a very bad case of depression. She was clinically depressed. She'd go in and out of a hospital every other week. But one thing, every time I was at her house, her mom would cook dinner every single night. She could be bawling, crying her eyes out, ripping her hair out, and I remember she'd make the most delicious pasta. So she'd mix the pasta sauce, right? And she's crying. And me being an idiot that I am, I went up to her one day and I said, "Excuse me, you're bawling your eyes out, you're ripping your hair, and you're still making food for us. Do you want to take a break?" And she looked at me like directly in my eye and she said, "What does my depression have to do with making dinner for my kids and you?" And that was the one time she saw, I don't know why she didn't see it in some other parts of her life, but she knew in spite of her depression, she could make the best damn dinner for her kids and whoever's there. That was the one time she saw that in spite of her depression, she was there to feed her family. Now, I wonder what kind of implications that would do for people if they could see so deep. And again, that touched me. She wasn't a guru. She wasn't a coach. She wasn't a therapist. She was a depressed, clinically depressed mother making dinner. And that touched me because I got to see on a deeper level that in spite of what she's hearing in her mind, in spite of what experience she's having, dinner was always going to be at the table. I don't know why that touched me, but it did. And I started to see again, that's those little touching moments is what opened my eyes a little bit more of the human experience. Those are the touching moments that changed, just a little bit of how I saw life. That makes a difference for me and the people that I work with.